was a big fan of, and Jerret also liked this deck along with Jeff Novikov and some other guys from the Chicago area. I'm dating myself a little bit, but we walk into blue-white versus Esper again. I don't know if we're going to see the rapid pace that we saw last time between Adrian and Jerret, but we do see an Elspeth come onto the table here. And you see Sullivan's going to play an Elspeth of his own, so we're going to catch things up. Sullivan did win game number 1. You see a couple of detention spheres out here. Nightveil Specters, Jerret does have in his sideboard. Both players have an Elspeth right now, a bunch of lands. Game 1 looks like it may have taken a little while, but you see Rocha does have 3 soldier tokens, and Sullivan looks like he's not going to get to resolve his Elspeth.
Yeah, it looks like he's getting hit with a syncopate here. And this is the second time we've had Adrian on camera against an Esper deck. Winning game 1, which is very challenging. Jerret with 2 main deck copies of Thoughtseize, often a big tool in the mirror match.
Yeah. Again, he is employing the Nightveil Spectre plan. Sullivan probably not too surprised by that. Is an attack here by 3, as that looks like the direction that most Esper players are moving towards. I know Harry Corvesi, he wrote an article on the Select Side of Star City Games where he is really preaching that strategy as being very, very powerful and important right now to be able to combat other Spectres.
Yeah, it's super good, and we've seen Soldier of the Pantheon be sort of a conversion plan that blue-white or Esper decks can go into, and Nightveil Spectre's upside is much larger if your opponent has completely abandoned any sort of creature removal.
You see a Jace here from Rocha. He's going to tick that down, so 3 cards coming. It's a Negate, a Gainsay, and a Temple of Deceit. He's splitting that up momentarily here. Sullivan does not look like he has a lot of cards in his hand. It looks like Rocha is in the driver's seat of this game.
Yeah, this feels like one of those sort of games where Adrian can steal it with Aetherling and otherwise is in a lot of trouble.
And you see the split there. Negate and a land versus Gainsay. So Gainsay is going to go to the bottom of the deck, and maybe the thought process here for Sullivan is that if Gainsay can counter Aetherling, but Negate cannot.
Correct.
And it looks like Sullivan only does have 1 card in his hand right now. Not exactly sure what it is, as he does take a draw. Looks like it's an Essence Scatter, potentially.
Yeah, it's Essence Scatter. Not that big of a help against the bevy of awesome spells Jerret is deploying over the last couple turns.
You would think that Essence Scatter could counter Elspeth, but no.
You would think that.
Yeah. Again, a Flavor Judge is what we need. Here's a Jace.
Well, Elspeth is a planeswalker. It's like no mere mortal.
Ah,
you know?
Sure. Here's a Revelation from Rocha. So he is very far ahead as he rolls up his sleeves. Yeah, things are about to get real dirty out here.
I'm just going to go ahead and draw all these cards and untap my 25 lands.
So Sullivan's going to take a look at the graveyard. This is probably to get a little bit of information for the next game, because I'm not sure he can come back in this one. It's going to take Rocha a couple turns to probably close it out, as he's going to play a Temple of Deceit and Scry here, but Sullivan has 1 card in his hand and a Keening Apparition in play, so it's not great. And if you're Adrian, as here's Elixir, a Temple, and a Hallowed Fountain from a Jace. If you're Adrian, time is of the essence here. You're probably losing this one, yeah, and he said, that is good enough for me.
Yeah, Elixir really shuts the door if everything else didn't.
Yeah. We're going to go into a 3rd one here between Blue-White Control and Esper. So if you like Sphinx's Revelations, buckle up, because we're going to have a couple.
So the edges in this matchup, it's basically Jerret's Thoughtseizes against Adrian's Mutavaults. Those are the exclusive tools each player has in the matchup.
Yeah.
Mutavault very good at just, taxing planeswalkers, not so much Elspeth, but Jace certainly. And it could also be good in random spots where the Esper deck's holding up mana to counterspell things, probably doesn't have a lot of creature removal in the post-board games. And Thoughtseize is, of course, excellent in any sort of matchup where your life total isn't being taxed.
Sideboard here for both players. We'll take a look really quickly as looks like Adrian's going to go back to the drawing board. Rocha looks happy with his configuration. But it looks like he's actually moving a couple cards in and out. Sullivan does have 3 Gainsays and a Negate, a Render Silent, to go along with the Glare of Heresy, 2 Last Breath, a Celestial Flare, a Debtor's Pulpit, 1 Blind Obedience, 1 Keening Apparition, a Ratchet Bomb, a Domestication, and a Jace Memory Adept. So gotta love Gainsay, Negate, and Render Silent. Saw Adrian against Esper last time actually bringing Glare of Heresy. Doesn't mean it's going to stay in here. It does take care of Detention Sphere and Elspeth, but it doesn't take care of Nightveil Spectre, so that's something to be wary of. 2 copies of Last Breath, however, do, so maybe we see him bring those in. Celestial Flare also does. Debtor's Pulpit. Good answer to Aetherling, so we can see that come in as we saw in the last match. A Keening Apparition we already saw in his deck, doesn't mean he's going to leave it in, but we'll see. To go along with the Ratchet Bomb and Domestication, and then the Jace. Jace is a fantastic card drawing engine here. So.
It's possible that Keening Apparition just gets bad enough in the face of Nightveil Spectre that he doesn't necessarily want in the matchup. When we watched him play on camera against an Esper deck where they did not have Nightveil Spectre, Keening Apparition was relevant more as a 2/2 for 2 than as the enchantment destroying effect. And on Jerret's side, we have 2 Negates, 3 Doomblades, a Gainsay, a Blind Obedience, 4 Night Veil Spectre, a Thoughtseize, 2 Blood Barons. A lot of powerful tools he can bring in here. Thoughtseize, of course, the Night Veil Spectres, the additional permission. Not even unreasonable to bring in Blood Baron. Adrian does not have a lot of answers to that card if it resolves.
That's true. I mean, I really want to see if Adrian's going to leave in Supreme Verdicts now. That's the thing that's of most interest to me, because it's definitely an option at this point. And is it worth it to leave it in? You know, when you know your opponent has Night Veil Spectre, potentially Blood Baron, you can clear up some Elspeth tokens. It can be pretty bad, but it can also be really good.
Yeah, it's rough because Adrian's actually kind of the beatdown deck in the matchup, to the extent that either of these players are capable of being the beatdown deck.
There are some real decisions to be made. We'll see how both players do sideboard. We're under 20 minutes here. We'll probably start this game with about 17 on the clock. That'll be enough probably for both players to finish. The sideboarded games typically are shorter in this matchup, and both of these players do play rather quickly, especially when they know that they have to win this game. The draw is horrible right now.
Yeah, game 1 is often very, very slow, but post-board it's a lot more proactive stuff, a lot more threats being played on the table.
Again, Sullivan will be on the play. He's been having a lot of success with blue-white control. He's going to start with the Temple of Enlightenment. And we are underway here in game number 3 between Sullivan and Rocha. Temple of Deceit there for Jerret. Top card's going to go to the bottom. Adrian will take a draw. It's an island. He'll pass the turn back over to Rocha, who will take a draw. It's going to be a Temple of Silence. Time to scry. Top card stays. And looks like we're going to have a Thoughtseize. We will. So Sullivan's hand has a divination at the very least. I think there's actually a Jace Memory Adept heading out over there, along with the Temple of Enlightenment and a Plains. Not sure the rest of the contents. You see that actually there's another copy of Jace there. It's the Architect of Thought as well. So it looks like Adrian has 3 Jaces and a divination. Rocha says, give me that divination.
Yeah, I like that because Adrian's going to have, you know, Jerret can fight over the other stuff long term with the counter spells or other discard spells, but the immediate threat of Adrian drawing 2 cards, as innocuous as it appears, actually is pretty significant.
Temple goes from the top to the bottom. There is a Night Veil Spectre, and this is the big problem here for Sullivan. He's got to contain that thing. Looks like he's going to start off with a Jace. He'll probably tick this down to get himself some cards. You see an Essence Scatter, Negate, and a Temple of Deceit. Here's your split, Negate on its own.
And that's another good reason to take Divination there, is it gives Adrian 2 less draws to find a Detention Sphere or a Supreme Verdict. He needs to answer this. If Adrian casts Jace into the face of this Night Veil Spectre, Jerret's fairly happy. You know? He can just kill Jace incidentally, and if Adrian wants to plus it, he can still get his Night Veil Spectre triggers.
Adrian going to take Negate here in this situation. Put the 2 cards on the bottom, pass it back over to Rocha, who will take a draw. He's going to play a Temple of Deceit. Top card's going to go to the bottom. He's going to attack. He's going to take care of Jace. No trigger for the Night Veil, of course, because it did take care of a Planeswalker. Sullivan's going to draw his card. Let's see what he wants to try to resolve. This is another copy of Jace. Rocha has a counterspell in Gainsay. Sullivan does have a land to play in Temple of Enlightenment. He can set his deck appropriately to make it so that Jerret doesn't draw a great card, so he's going to leave that card on top. Spectre going to untap along with these lands. We'll see how Rocha wants to proceed here.
Well, the problem is that there's almost no bad draws that Adrian has.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of them.
Yeah, that's about the only one. But it'll get it done. Look, that's a Fated Retribution there?
Yep.
Yeah. And Adrian's smart to leave that on top of his deck. Gets him a fresh draw, too. So let's see what Sullivan wants to play this turn. This is Mutavault. Of course, Rocha does have all his mana available, so got to be wary of counter spells, but might just be forced to actually have to cast some spells. See, he's going to tap 4 mana here. What's this going to be? That is going to be a Jace, or at least an attempt at one. Will Rocha counter?
The thing is, I'm pretty sure that Adrian really wants his Jace Memory Adept to resolve. That's the thing he's playing.
It's probably the most important card, yeah.
So casting that just into the jaws of all this untapped mana is a huge risk. If he's able to land Architect of Thought, that's still good for him. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's still a productive turn.
Revelation in response to Jace minusing. It's only going to be for 2. It's going to be a baby rev, but it's going to draw Rocha a few cards. Here's an Elixir to go along with a couple of lands. So now it's up to Adrian on what cards he wants to take, and he says, I need lands. Elixir's going to go to the bottom. If we get to that point, we'll see what happens. But for right now, Sullivan feels he doesn't need that, as he does have Negate at the ready, but Rocha knows about it. Rocha will take a draw. It's another copy of Temple of Silence.
And it wouldn't have surprised me there if Adrian actually took Temple of Enlightenment over the Island and the Elixir.
Me too.
This is not an Elixir game.
There goes Jace from the Spectre. Rocha's going to pass the turn back. Sullivan draws his card. It's a copy of Disperse. This is a Plains. Will Sullivan go for the Jace plus Negate backup? It looks like maybe the answer is yes, and it looks like the answer is yes. So here it's Jace. Maybe we're going to have a fight over this. maybe we won't. We'll see.
Adrian's done a really great job of sculpting the game to this point.
Yeah, I like his pacing. I like everything that he's done so far, trying to overcome this Nightveil Spectre. Jace is going to come into play. Sullivan's going to draw a card as that does tick up, and mill a syncopate there from Rocha. This is a revelation. Will Sullivan counter this? He does have a negate in his hand. And he says no. He says immediately, that's fine. You can have those 3 cards.
Adrian didn't even think twice.
Yep.
There was no hesitation there. And again, he's trying to fight the game over text boxes, not really fight the game over card advantage.
Spectre's going to come in. Looks like it's going to hit, not going after Jace. The card that comes off is a Dissolve. That's a big one. This is where things get a little bit more scary now.
Yeah, this is where, if you're in Adrian's seat, you really hope that, or if you're rooting for Adrian, you really hope he brought in Supreme Verdict.
3 mana. It's a D-Sphere. That's a negate. This is a Dissolve. So D-Sphere is going to resolve. There goes Jace. So a little scry action there from Rocha from his Dissolve. But Sullivan's going to get the draw now. Now don't forget, Sullivan does have a Disperse in his hand. The big question is, how is he going to use it?
He also has a Revelation. This is a spot where he could land that too.
He also has a Cyclonic Rift.
There is a risk of getting hit with a potential Dispel here, so there is some cause for hesitation, but it's a good opening for Adrian to land something big.
Dispel, not really a card that a lot of Esper decks do play, but it doesn't mean your opponent won't have one. You definitely have to respect it, especially when they just have a lone island up and are willing to fight the battle that we saw in the last turn. Sullivan going to overload Cyclonic Rift. Kind of resetting things, but basically saying, give me my Jace back, thank you. He's going to start on 4. Let's see if it's going to go up to 5, or if he's going to mill 10 cards. He's going to start by playing a Temple of Light and get himself a little bit more information.
And what I really like this is, you're saying to Jerret, hey, you want to go and play the next turn that we just had here? You're going to tap out again, and who knows what's going to happen next.
Yep. So Adrian does mill a card and draw a card with Jace. So Rocha going to start with a Temple. Top card going to go to the bottom. Sullivan, as you said, basically saying, I'm happy with playing that turn again, except for I have more lands this time. There's a D-Sphere. There goes Jace.
And Jerret kind of needs to he needs to also still cast his stuff. He can't just be saying go on his reactive cards, because Adrian has a really big mana advantage at this point.
And he decides not to deploy the Nightveil Spectre, leaving up what I believe to be counter magic in this situation. And if you're Adrian, that's great.
Yeah. Now look, he gets to leverage the mana advantage that he has. He has counter spells at the ready.
Mm-hmm. So everything going okay here. Again, Sullivan's blue-white deck, he's been writing about it for weeks. He's got some, for lack of a better term, goofy cards in here, but he's not playing these cards like on accident. You don't see a lot of blue-white decks with Disperse or Cyclonic Rift or Azorius Keyrune, but these are all cards that have been instrumental for him when we've watched him play.
And the Singleton instance, they have a lot of overlap, but it gives the deck much more flexibility in the way that it can play. Cyclonic Rift, of course, overloading that is significant, but he can't do the play my Detention Sphere, trigger it, and Cyclonic Rift itself, so having one of each, they're similar cards, but they give you different utility.
Here's Nightveil Spectre. Will we have a fight over this? It does not look like we will.
Again, Adrian does have Supreme Verdict in hand, so he doesn't really have to pick a fight over this if he doesn't want to.
The thing that's going to be really interesting to me, Patrick, is how he wants to use the Disperse that he has. Do I want to bounce a Spectre, or do I want to bounce a D-Sphere and actually get Jace back? Yeah, he's going to cast Disperse right now, and this might actually force some action, but it won't. So back comes Jace. That's going to stay at 4. Sullivan's going to untap. He's going to take a draw. Looks like it was a Temple. He's going to lead with the Temple of Deceit to do a little scry action.
I actually don't think Jerret has any counter spells. Not that Adrian knows this, of course. But
yeah. I'm going to mill a Revelation and draw himself a card. See what else Sullivan wants to do on this turn. He's going to cast a Verdict. This will allow him to protect his Jace a little bit from the creature. Of course, the Detention Sphere is still just hanging out over there.
But Detention Sphere isn't really that safe, Adrian's already shown Killing Apparition in one of the games. You can probably assume there's a Revoke existence somewhere in the 75, so Jerret can't be totally safe leaning on Detention Sphere to handle these Jaces.
There's D-Sphere. Yet again. And Sullivan perfectly happy with that exchange. You see Sullivan's hand. He does have a big Revelation, and he's going to have to try to work on resolving. He also has a Syncopate, too.
Yeah, I think he's happy just to sit on this Revelation and wait until shields are low.
Yeah, there's a Hollow Fountain. Will he activate a Mutavault? Maybe try to force a little bit of action here. He thought about it. Now he's maybe thinking better of it.
Yeah, Adrian has. I am a little surprised by this attack, although I defer to Adrian's expertise in the matchup. With Syncopate and Sphinx's Revelation at the ready, I think I would prefer just to say go with the mana up, but.
You know, I kind of like it because it makes it so that it doesn't make a clear signal of I have a revelation that I'm trying to resolve. I think that's the reason that I like it the most. Here's a Nightveil Spectre. This is a Dissolve. That'll counter that. Now it's time to scry.
Yeah, when you say go with the Mutavault up there, you are giving a fair bit of information about your hand. That is true.
And trying to mask the fact that he has a revelation, but now he's not attacking at all. So this will give Rocha something to think about as we are about 8 minutes left in this match.
Yeah, it's possible he was saying, you know, well, I have Dissolve at the ready. I can afford to attack with Mutavault because the mana doesn't matter that much. But now that I'm leaning on Syncopate, the mana might matter.
Kind of funny, Rocha has a copy of Opportunity in his hand. So you see, Sullivan's going to try to resolve a big copy of Revelation, and Jerret Rocha says, I would like to resolve an Opportunity first. And that's fine as he draws at least 3 lands. Not sure what the 4th card was.
The Honest Sphinx's Revelation, still plenty powerful.
Yeah. There's a Dissolve. That's going to take care of that. All right. Adrian tried to bluff maybe a counterspell, but it did not work as the top card's going to go to the bottom. So Sullivan will untap, as Rocha did have to do a little bit of discarding there. See what Adrian's going to try to do now. Okay, so now he's going to try to resolve another Revelation. Playing around Syncopate beautifully here, by the way.
And with the own Syncopate in his hand, if Jerret had something like the Gate, he could still Syncopate back.
And the other thing I love about that play there, too, by Adrian, is that the first Sphinx Revelation, that was just purely bait. You can counter that. If it resolves, I'm happy, and if we have a little counter war over it, that's okay, too. As here's a Temple Enlightenment here from Rocha. So Sullivan has refilled, as has Jerret. So we are into, I guess, stage 2, for lack of a better term. Here's a Jace.
Well, the stage is sort of reset.
Yeah. Both players above their starting life total. See a couple of cards here. Thoughtseize is going to be put on its own. Unsurprisingly, that's going to go by itself and be taken by Rocha. Now he's going to fire that bad boy off. Will Sullivan try to counter anything? He says no. So there's a Detention Sphere, there's a Divination, a Syncopated Gainsay, a couple of cards over. It looks like maybe a Last Breath. That's actually the Debtor's Pulpit. So ready to take care of the Aetherling if he needs to. A lot of cards over there. Tough choice there for Rocha on what to take.
And he takes
Aetherling.
a fine choice.
Yeah. Now, of course, we know that Sullivan is playing a copy of Elixir of Immortality, and it's on the bottom of his deck. Don't forget that. That's from an earlier Jace. But Adrian does have a lot of really good cards in his hand, so he might have to work his way towards trying to resolve that, which Rocha has just attempted to do and has done.
Yeah, with Rocha knowing that the coast is clear, that's a great time to stick your Elixir.
Yeah, here comes Mutavault trying to get after Jace. It'll get the job done. There that goes.
Oh, and Adrian's brought in Domestication.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So that might have been the big re-sideboard once Nightveil Spectre made an appearance.
I like it. Here's Debtor's Pulpit. It's going to go on a Plains. Adrian could kind of hook him in maybe a little bit. This could be interesting. Here's a Temple.
Well, the problem is that now there's a huge disincentive for Jerret to cast a creature because Debtor's Pulpit's in play.
That's true.
So it's harder to set it up, but
That's
it's still
true.
possible.
Here's Jace going to take on down. It's Revelation and Dissolve in the land. See how Sullivan wants to split him. It's Revelation versus. Rocha will take Revelation. Counterspell going to go to the bottom along with the Hallowed Fountain. Got about 5 minutes left on the clock here. I believe these players will be able to finish, but it's going to be interesting to see. There comes Mutavault. Bye-bye, Jace.
This is the second time we've had Adrian play against Esper on camera where they've had very few answers, it appears, to Mutavault, and it's done a lot of work.
It's part of the reason the blue-white version is so good, because it gets to play so many Mutavaults. Rocha draws. He's going to play a Hallowed Fountain. He's going to pass the turn back over to Sullivan. Sullivan will take a draw on his end. He's going to fire at Mutavault again, it looks like. Maybe he's going to start with a spell. It's a Glare Heresy targeting the Jace. We have a new plan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Give me this back. Thank you much. He's going to he's going to leave it at 4. He might take it up to 5. We'll see. He might be on mill mode, even though mill mode's not great right now because of the Elixir. But what this does is it forces the hand of Elixirs. There goes a Thoughtseize and a Negate, along with a D-Sphere, a Hero's Downfall, another copy Negate, among other things. Sullivan going to play a Plains for the turn.
I mean, Adrian does have the ability to just fight on this Elixir on the way back. If this forces him to possibly Elixir sooner rather than later, and then Adrian can potentially just counter it on the way back.
There's a D-sphere. So the fight over Jace may begin now.
And Glare is just such a great answer to Detention Sphere in the matchup too, because Gainsay is the counterspell most frequently brought in.
Time in the round, open players. Time in the round. And your current turn.
Time in the round has been called, so they have just looks like they had about a 4-minute extension here from moving to the feature match area. This is going to be a revelation. Looks like in response for 4, 2, 3, and 4 cards added to Sullivan's hand. But more importantly, he gains 4 life, Patrick.
Yes. Although this is really a testament to how much Adrian's played this kind of matchup. He didn't even have to think before he said rev for 4, even though he obviously has numerous different ways he can try to set up this revelation plus whatever counterspells he's trying to set up.
There's an Elspeth. See if he wants to fight over that or not. Looks like he might want to.
I think in part he wants to fight over some stuff just because he's going to end up discarding the hand size anyway.
Yeah. There's a Render Silent. That's going to take care of that. No more spells here for Rocha. Pass the turn back. Rocha still holding on that Dissolve. I believe he has a Revelation over there as well. Sullivan going to draw some cards. Has a bunch of them in his hand. As you mentioned, he'll probably have to discard down to hand size. He's going to start by firing with Mutavault. As we work our way to 3 minutes left. There's a Temple. Can one of these players get the job done? If one can get it done, I think it's probably going to be Adrian, as there's Elixir going to shuffle stuff back in.
Yeah, Jerret's pretty far away from being able to win the game with anything that he has in play right now. And if Adrian's able to unlock this Jace out of the Detention Sphere, he can win quite quickly.
Yep. All right, so that's going to go on top there. And Sullivan will pass it back over to Rocha. Sullivan, of course, with 7 cards in his hand. See the life totals here, 26 to 24. Let's see what Rocha wants to do this turn. Here's 4-man. Looks like he's going to start with the Jace. That gets countered immediately. Maybe Sullivan senses a little bit of weakness here.
There's also just, how many cards can he leave in his hand when he's going to be discarding or close to it.
Yeah, I mean, if his hand is stock loaded, he can afford to just counter cards like that too. As you're in the attack with Mutavault, Rocha's going to go down to 22. You saw Sullivan play a Temple of Deceit, a little scry action. Rocha going to play a land. Looks like he has nothing to do. So Sullivan draws his card and just immediately attacks the Mutavault. You see he's shortcutting a little bit now. This is his first time going close to time with this deck, that's for sure.
Yep. I also like fighting over the Jace there because there is a reasonable chance that Jerret's just running out of stuff to do. He's low on cards in hand. He could have lands in play. He could have Detention Spheres, what have you. So Adrian, I think, picking a very good spot there to say we're going to fight over this Jace.
Ladies
even
and
though
gentlemen,
often people don't.
That's an Azorius key rune.
It's back.
It is and better than ever. Looks like a big revelation here. And Jerret will probably try to defend with his Dissolve. See if Adrian wants to have a little fight over this. There's a Syncopate.
Yeah, these Syncopates get so bad as the game progresses that this is a great time to try to cash it in.
Dissolve. Yep, counter your Dissolve. So that's going to get countered. And now I think Rocha's out of action.
Yeah, he's down to 1 card in hand. I mean, if it's Elspeth or another Revelation or, he has something going on.
He drew Elixir. This is a... Uh-oh, what's this?
I think he may have drawn Revelations.
He's going reaching. Oh, he is going reaching. That's a Rev. Adrian have another counter spell? Nope. So we play on. Negate among the cards that Rocha is drawing right now.
Blood Baron as well, it appears.
There's Elixir.
It looked like Adrian was right about to turn the corner there.
Maybe he needed to fade one more draw step. He wasn't able to do it. See Adrian quickly draw his card. He's going to play a Jace. He wants to get a little deeper into his deck. He's going to turn over 3 cards, Gainsay among them. Gainsay probably going to go by itself. Sullivan going to snap that up real fast. Rest are going to go to the bottom. Elixir is working its way actually towards the top of Sullivan's deck right now as he fires in for 6. Looks like he's going to put Rocha down to potentially 18, which it will be. And Rocha's going to untap. He'll take a draw here.
Just not clear how much relevant stuff Jerret has left in his deck.
Yep. There's Detention Sphere. He's going to take care of a Jace. That is time in the round for these players. So Jerret's your active player, so he is turn 0. So Sullivan will have 1, 3, and 5. Rocha will have 2 and 4. Sullivan going to try to figure out how he can win it.
Yeah, I mean, if Elixir wasn't in play, it would possibly be realistic for Adrian to unlock Jace and start milling. As it stands, it's going to be really hard.
See the Blood Baron there, but Debtor's Pulpit's going to take care of that because let's not forget, Debtor's Pulpit gives the land the ability. It's not the enchantment. So even though the enchantment is white, the land has the ability to tap and tap target creatures. So even though Blood Baron's in play, it doesn't play a huge role. Sullivan picks up a copy of Detention Sphere. He is turn number 1 of 5 in extra turns. Sullivan going to fire up the ragtag group of characters, get in here for 6. Going to put Rocha down to 12.
Look at that motley crew.
Yeah, hey, whatever it takes. Kirun going to the skies, whatever it takes.
3 different birds attacking.
This is true. This is true. Rocha going to play a land here. It's a Hallowed Fountain. Turn number 2.
Or I think Azorius Kirun is a bird. I'm not actually
You don't
sure.
know?
No, I have not seen any blue-white tribal
You've
decks.
really just disappointed me.
Yeah.
Your lack of knowledge here in the booth.
This is a big hole in my game.
Yeah. You got to know it all. If I asked you what Chains of Mephistopheles did, you'd be able to tell me.
More or less.
Yeah.
Blue bird
You
artifact.
did it. Boom. Yep. We'll keep you for a little while longer.
Thanks. Passing yet another coverage test.
Here is a copy of Elspeth. That's going to tick up to 5. Soldier tokens coming into play.
That shuts the door on the beatdown plan, most likely.
Yep. Sullivan, you see, he's going to slow down a little bit now, saying, all right, I think we're probably working our way towards a draw. Turn number 3 here for Adrian.
Yeah, all Adrian has to do is not die next turn, which is really hard to imagine.
It would be impressive if he did. Here's a Detention Sphere.
It's really intriguing in these games how, you see these revs for 7 and for 8, and then both players are down to no cards in hand 3 turns later.
Yeah, it's really strange, right?
Yeah.
I refilled my entire hand, and I don't have any cards in my hand. Whose turn is it? There's another D-Sphere.
Adrian just trying to make sure he doesn't get killed here randomly.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me, too. Wants to make sure everything's kosher. A gainsay, a little fight over this, potentially. Another one. So let's see what this one's going to target if it does resolve. Here's Negate, so that's not going to get it done either. Will Adrian fight over this? Because we know Adrian has a gainsay in his hand that he hasn't cast yet. So maybe he'll fight over this. You see him kind of cross his arms a little bit here, saying, maybe I want to fight over this, maybe I don't.
Maybe he's just contemplating if there's some sort of card some sort of blue card that kills him if he were to drop his shields down.
You see he's counting his deck now. See how many cards he's got left over there. We can't forget that he still has Elixir left in his deck. And he is going to fight over this. Okay, so there's a gainsay.
Maybe he was counting on his own deck because he's worried about the possibility of Jace Memory Adept in Jerret's deck.
Yeah, sure.
That could be something to mull over there.
Yep. You see Jerret taking a look at Azorius Kirun. Not the first time, buddy.
Yeah.
Not the first time. So he's going to get rid of the soldier tokens. Little Sullivan. And so now it looks like to me, he's going to fire up this ragtag group of characters. Hero's Downfall is going to take care of the Kirun. That's definitely a first.
I believe that is a first, yes.
It's going to put Rocha down to 8, and I think Rocha's out of cards. So he's going to draw. Turn number 4. Sullivan's going to tap the Blood Baron. Pass back. This is turn number 5.
And Adrian might just be demonstrating, look, I have you dead next turn.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on conceding here because the draw is so bad for us?
This is Jerret has an Elixir in play, so we can go up to a virtual 9. I wouldn't be surprised if these players will draw, but we'll get a final result here. And as soon as we do know, we'll let you guys know if they decide to draw or if one of the players decides to concede in this